it's Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Crafting, coming to you late on Monday, June 2nd. It's almost 11:30 p.m. here in Wisconsin. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, obviously in the United States. Tonight, we are going to take some time to work with the suite. So I'm looking at my iPad. I'm trying to get it to come up with my live. It's a little delayed. So I am looking at the current annual catalog. This is the one that just released the first part of May. And here we are already in June. It's crazy. But I'm going to look at this first suite, this Florals in Bloom. It starts on page 40. And if you've got your catalog, the next suite starts on page 48. So that's 7 pages devoted to this suite, Florals in Bloom. There's a lot in here. It's pretty crazy. So to me, this is almost like a super suite because there's a couple of bundles and paper and embellishments. So if you're interested in florals, a lot of people don't like the florals, but we're going to give it a go. There are just a ton of ideas here, and I haven't even begun to really play with what some of the dies will do as far as cutting out elements to make cute 3D flowers and such. So here's where we see basically the bones of the suite. So we've got the Pretty and Florals stamp set. We've got the dies. I've got a couple pulled off of here because I used them to cut out some pieces from the designer series paper. And you can see in your catalog, there's a few items that are like highlighted in pink. Those are ones that will cut out from the stamps, but some of them also work on the paper. Okay. And I'll have to play with some of these because they might not all cut out on the paper. And then we've got, sorry, I was just thinking in my head for another project and I need to focus. We also have the Sweet Blooms. And this too is a stamp set. These are both photopolymer, so you can see through them. And it makes it easy to line up your items because some of these you can see are 2-step stamping. So you would probably stamp, you'll stamp one or the other, whichever is your preference. Either the stems first and then you line up the flowers on the stems, or do the flowers first and line up the stems. Sometimes it works for me to do the stems and add the flowers, and sometimes not so much. So it's just a matter of practice. So there's the second bundle. And then there are embellishments. Now I've already opened up 2 packs. Don't ask me why. But I have 3. These are flat in color pearls. All right. So this is our Secret Sea, Cloud Cover, Timid Tiger, Darling Duckling, and Strawberry Slush. But they're very flat. Hopefully you can see that. So they will have almost no rise when you go to put them in an envelope for mailing. Now I usually take an embossed piece of cardstock anyway and put it on top of my cards when I mail them, just to protect everything. So we're probably going to use some of those. And then we've got this designer series paper. Now I have 2 packs of this, and I have obviously cut up a bunch because I've been making things with this over the last couple of months because I was able to pre-order this in April. So this is just all florals, and I am not usually a real floral kind of person, but I do like the color combinations in these. Now, I don't know if these are hyacinths or what they're called, but even the back sides are just really pretty. I like the color palette with this page. And this might have a die that works. I'll have to play with that. Okay, and there's the back side there. And then here is another one. I hope I had all the pages in there. I tried to pull my fullest pack. But some of what I cut out tonight was the stems from one of the flowers. And now these end up having little nubbies on them so that you can, if you're going to glue them together, you have something to attach it to. I'm going to put these up on dimensionals. So I used both of the dies. So there's a die that cuts out the stems to these flowers. So you can kind of see how that would line up. And I wanted to cut them at the same time. That's why I cut them out of different positions in the paper. And then here's the die that does those blue flowers. Now that also works if you were to stamp. So the die will cut out that one. And then there's other dies that will cut out these flowers in that stem. Or this stem will work with those flowers too. So I'm going to put those there so hopefully I don't lose them. And I'm going to put this paper out of the way. And I'm going to put my catalog away. Oh, and there's another set of pages that have some more ideas on them for you before it goes to the next suite. That is really cute. That would take a bunch of die cutting, but basically you don't have to do much, just some two-step stamping and then run it through your die stamp and cut emboss machine. So some really fun ideas in the catalog. So if you have a catalog, hang on to those because they're just jam-packed with good ideas. If you need a catalog and you don't already have a demonstrator, I would love to be your demonstrator. So let me know and I can get a catalog off to you. So starting in just a little while, midnight Mountain Time, Stampin' Up! Is having a product suite sale. Okay, and I'm calling it the Sweet Sale. So Sweet, S-W-E-E-T, Sweet as in S-U-I-T-E, and they're on sale. So if you buy one suite, the second suite or suite products are on sale for 50% off. So be careful when you're placing an order because let's say you enter this suite. Okay, this is another reminder for me. Let's say you enter everything you need for this Florals and Bloom suite. All right, so you enter the suite number for that. And then let's say you put on a ribbon that might be in the Turtley Cute suite. That ribbon is going to come up at 50% off, not another suite that maybe you've entered as your fourth item on your order. So pay attention when you're entering your order so that your first suite you're putting in, put your other suite or a bundle, something that's got a higher value, because my understanding is that whatever you enter right after you've entered your suite is what's going to come up at the 50% off. So just watch your cart. If you see that you've got something like embellishments or a ribbon or something much smaller that went the 50% off, you need to rearrange your cart. So you'll probably have to delete some items and re-enter them to get it so that the right thing comes up at 50% off. I hope that makes sense. If you need help, shoot me a message or an email. All right, I'd be happy to try to give you a hand with that. I'm going to play with it tomorrow because that's the first I can start entering things for that sale as well. And I'll see how it actually kind of works out. The other thing I wanted to mention, just quick, Stampin' Up! Is doing this virtual album retreat. The purchase for this will allow you access to a 3-day, basically 8-hour a day retreat, virtual retreat. It will be run in the evenings on July 16th, 17th, and 18th. And their time is listed as Mountain Time because that's where headquarters is out in Utah. So they go by Mountain Time. But you get a whole bunch of stuff. It's called a month-to-month scrapbooking kit. There are 12 2-page spreads. Everything's pre-cut. The designer series paper that's exclusive to the kit. Stamp sets that are exclusive to the kit. Just it has a lot of stuff. So I'm hoping that I can do a gathering for this for people that have purchased the kit. There is no registration fee for the retreat because your purchase of the exclusive kit will be your ticket to the private Facebook page and later the private YouTube replay page, basically. All right, so if you've got questions about that, how it's going to work, what's involved, what's included, shoot me a message for that too. All right, let's get down to business. So I am just going to do something relatively simple. The suite has so many dies where we could make a whole bunch of different pieces, and I just didn't have time to create that today. I did make a fun little 3D card, basically a stand-up card for the Midwest Demonstrators event in Hobart, Indiana that I went to last month as my swap. So I think I might have shown that, but I may demonstrate that again as to how I did that. But I used some of the elements from here. So there's a lot to play with here, and I just have not taken the time to do that. I am also using one of the frame dies here from the Textured Notes die set that goes with the Textured Notes stamp set. This would be something that you could get on sale as well. If you order a suite first, you could get a bundle or bundle products for your 50% off. So do some wish list making and see what you might want to save money on. All right, so we're gonna do, we'll see how this looks. We're gonna do a landscape card, and I'm also gonna do a layout for a portrait. So if I've got my 8.5 by 11 sheet, if I score it at 5.5 and then cut it at 4 1/4, you can either have a card that sits like this, that I typically don't make because they do this, or you can make a card that's landscaped, which is what we're going to work on tonight. We'll see how it goes. All right, and then I took a white layer that I used that Textured Notes die on, just to kind of give it some decorative border there. And then I have, so this is the largest of the dies from that set. And then this piece I just kind of eyeballed down to see what I needed it at. And we're doing 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And that's just kind of a guess. We're going to see if it works. We're going to do kind of a, not really a paper piecing, but similar. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to cut it from corner to corner because I want the bottom part to sit on my card here. And we'll see how this looks. And if it doesn't look, we'll try something else. I mean, if it doesn't look good, we'll try something else. So from corner to corner, usually what I'll do with that is I will put one corner up past the brown part because there's guides here, so it kind of holds it in place. And then I'll make sure the other corner is down in the bottom, right? And then so that I don't mangle the corner as I'm going up or down with my cutting blade, I will put my blade toward the middle or just inside from the cornered edge and snap it down so it starts its cut in the middle rather than on the corner. And then I can go up and I can go down and I won't mangle the corners. All right, so this piece is going to go here. And then let's see if this will work. I wanted this piece to go, how did I want it to go? I thought I wanted it to go this way, there. So it didn't, this is too big. It's too big because it should go something like that. Let me just take a look. I probably have this way too big. So let's cut this down a little bit. Let's cut like 1 inch off of this side. And we'll cut down to here. I'll tell you the measurements in a minute if it works out. We'll go like this, if this works out. So this is now, I should have practiced this a little bit sooner, 2.5 by 3.5-ish. All right, so let's try this again. So if I go like this, this is not working how I wanted it to. I guess we're gonna go like this, because that's how I want it to lay out. I want it to be like that. So I guess landscaping, it's not going to work. We're going to do portrait on this one, because I didn't plan ahead with my designer series paper on how it was going to work. All right. So we took a rectangle that's not quite half, yeah, it's probably about half the size of my layer. All right, I should have played with it a little bit more. This one was 3.25 by 3, and that worked out a little differently. So like this one was the one I was kind of playing with. When I flip this over, it gave me a nice little border with the white. So it's kind of what I was trying to do here. But maybe my square should have been, or maybe my rectangle should have been more square. Let's try it with another piece of paper. You know, it's always an adventure. So if this one, so that layer is a little bit smaller. So for 3.25 by 3, let's do, if we do 3.25 by 3, let's do 3.5, whoops, 3.5 by 3.25. And we'll see how this works out. So it's a little bit more of a square, and I was working with a rectangle. So let's go ahead and put this up here again. And we'll see, maybe this one will look a little bit better. So let's go back like that. Because in theory, it could still work. So if we've got this like this, and if I flip, all right, if we're like this, I'm gonna flip that like that. Boy, that was a little bit of a struggle. So basically, you take the right-hand side, just flip it upside down, and turn it just like a quarter turn. Whew! And I do like how that fits better than this one, because this one came a little further over that way. So if we did this, flipped it and turned it slightly, it's basically the same concept, but I like the proportions of this better. All right, so this is going to go here, and we could actually spread it out a little bit so that we've got a channel in between here. And then here, we're going to do You Make Me Smile, and I'm going to try to stamp it right on my layer. And unlike last night, I am going to stamp it before I adhere it. And we need it pretty close to the top because of how our layers are working out. And I am going to do that. I was going to do it in Secret C, but excuse me, I do not see, pardon the pun, I do not see that stamp set. So I don't know what I was doing with it last. Let's see here. Here we go. All right. Secret C to the rescue. And I did stamp some Versamark on here to make it a little sticky. And I'm just barely tapping that on my ink. And we're going to put this as near to the top and the side as we can and hope that it's straight, since I can't put my head over the top of it because I would bump my camera. We'll see how this looks. That looks pretty good. It might be slightly crooked, but I think it'll be all right. And my smudge is, somehow I smudged it right there. I don't know if you can see that, but we're gonna cover it up with the flour. All right. So we started out with this little barely off kilter square. So it's just barely a rectangle. So my width is 1/4 inch less than my height. All right. So this one was 3 1/4 by 3 1/2, I think. 3 1/4 by 3 1/2. This piece is going to stay here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my glue. And we'll just put a nice little layer on here. Not too heavy, just covering especially those corners because I don't want them to flip up. So we're going to put this down here with just a little bit inside that decorative edge. And with that multi-purpose liquid glue, it gives me a little wiggle room. Okay. And then this piece, if we flip it over and go like this. So flip it over and go clockwise. We're going to move this over just a little bit. So we've got a little white channel in here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on. Hopefully without messing it up. And we'll have it kind of with a little border to the right and in the middle then with our channel. I just about covered up that little smudge. But then we're going to do our flower here. Let's see if we can get that covered up. Of course, I could always put a gem there because I think the flower is going to look good here. And I need to, oh, there's my other piece. So this will go here like this. And I'm going to put the stem glued right to my layer, and then those flower heads are on dimensionals. And then we're going to use probably the cloud cover embellishments, and this is going to go onto here. A little convoluted to start with, but I think it turned out pretty good. We could also put I'll put a couple of gems up there, but let's go ahead and get this glued down. I could have put adhesive sheet on the back of here, but the spots on here to put glue are pretty wide, so I don't really have trouble with overflow with my glue when I have broader pieces like that. All right, and then we'll just line up these die cut flowers with those stem tops. And again, as I mentioned, there's that little bulb kind of at the top of the stem that the die doesn't cut out, but that kind of makes it so that you could glue them together, or it just helps you line up the head of the flower. Or you could snip it off if you don't like it there. All right, so there's those. I think that's kind of cute with a little bit of dimensional on there to raise that up. Hopefully you can see that. And then let's put a couple of these embellishments. And I think maybe I'm going to do the secret sky. And we'll put that one there. We'll do a medium one, maybe here, and a small one here. And let's go ahead. I could put this up on dimensionals, but then with these on dimensionals, it might make it too thick to put through the Postal Service. So let's just see how this is looking. We'll have to see if I want to put some kind of ribbon or something on there to break up that white part. Get that centered a little bit better. That's pretty good. All right, so there's the first one. Now let's go ahead and play with the second one. The colors will be just slightly different. And I'm going to go ahead right away. This is a smaller layer that I did with the next die in on that Textured Notes die set. And then this, if we've got 2 3/4, we're going to cut this at 3. Because I think we want the longer, yeah. So let's do this at 3. Whoops. My cutting blade would help, right? And then we're going to go from corner to corner with my blade not at a corner so that I don't jumble up my paper. We're going to lay this here. We're going to flip this over and go clockwise. And then we could stamp again this sentiment, "You make me smile." Actually, I think I want to put that on a layer. And I did not pre-cut any of the flowers. So I may stamp a flower and use my dies to cut out the stamped image instead. Let's move this over a little bit. And we'll hold that down for just a couple of seconds. I like to let the ink soak into the paper a little bit. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to take, and I'm going to make this a diagonal because I want it to kind of flow with this angle. So we're going to go like this. It'll be close, but maybe not quite. And then to get the same angle on the other side, I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to turn it clockwise and do like a 180 on it. And I'm going to use it as a template on this side so that my angle is the same. And let's see how that looks. I don't know if I like it. I don't think I like it. I may have to fussy cut that out there because I don't like that like that. And at this point I can't straighten this out either. But we could go like this. And like this and just make it kind of wonky. But I don't like that either. I think that looks like it doesn't belong that way. All right, let's try this again and see. Because sometimes with creativity, that's just what you have to do. Trial and error and find out what you like. So we'll just make this one go straight up and down this time, and we'll see if that looks any better. And I think if I make a layer, like with maybe cloud cover, for that sentiment to be framed by, I might like it better. And I'm going to take a little bit off of here maybe. It looks just a little tall by the K. So we'll see. We'll see what this looks like. All right. So let's go ahead and line these back up. And I'm just smoothing out the trim line, because this piece here on the right is basically the back. So sometimes with that cutting blade, it leaves a little bit of a rim. So we could do this here. And I think if we get a piece of maybe cloud cover and frame that, I might like that more. You know, I wonder. I wonder if any of these would be the right size. That would be too small. And this one is just going to be too big for the card, I think. So this one, it would take up a lot of space on the front of my card, and that would hide some of the paper. So I'm not going to do that. Let me go get a piece of cloud cover. I'm going to cover this up. And let's just give this a little bit of a border. And this piece is 1 inch by 2 7/8. So let's do 3 by 1 1/8. Let's see if that works. So let's do our 3 inches this way. And then let's go 1 1/8, and I'm going to take that off to the right side because it gives me a little more to hold on to this way. Let's see if my measurements were right. It's late, so you never know. My measurements were right. What do you know? So we'll put this over here. And I think what we could do is if we attach this all flat, we'll put this layer up on dimensionals and we'll make it just a little bit different from this one. Now I could still do a flower here, but we'll put some embellishments on there too. So let's go ahead and start gluing some of these pieces. So that we can finish for the night or for the day, wherever you're at. All right, so remember we got this piece from here. All right, so this was 3 and this was 3 1/4, cut down from corner to corner diagonally. We flipped it over, went clockwise to do it as just a kind of a, not a fun fold, but almost like a shuffle kind of technique. And I'm just leaving a little space there to create a channel between the designs of the paper. Let's put these together. And with that multi-purpose liquid glue, it gives me a little wiggle room to make sure things are where I want them to be. And then we'll just go up to about a 1/4 inch from that side. I might be just about out of glue for this bottle. So you can see I skipped gluing over here because that's where I'm going to have it hanging off the page, that layer. And then let's put some dimensionals on here. And we are almost done. And we'll have 2 similar cards, but different looks because of the paper and the sizing. All right. I should probably fold and burnish this. it'll be harder to burnish once I have a layer on, because I like my cards to lay nice and flat. All right, so let's try this again. Oh, I just thought of something. What if we used some white baker's twine? And if we don't get it all hung up in our scissors, our snips, oops. I wonder if I could tie a bow over here. I'm going to try to wrap it 3 times, but I might not have given myself quite enough twine. So let's go ahead and put that on there. And let's tie ourselves a bow. Fifi, you made it! I'm almost done, but you can do the rewind, or I can give you a quick rundown of what we did with my sample. I'm looking for my little reverse tweezers. There they are. Isn't that pretty? You must have it then, Fifi. You must have that. Sweet. So I was reminding everybody that tunes in that there's a sweet, sweet sale starting shortly, like within hours. All right, let's take these out of here. Yes, it's so pretty. I cut up a lot of my designer series paper already, so I was trying to show some of the papers, but I had small scraps and whatnot, and that's working with both of my packs. I had 2 packs, so anyway, so there's our bow. And then I think we could do Darling Duckling, because we've got that in there. We could put one here, and then maybe a little one there, and a little one over here, and that gives us just a little bit of bling. So this was the sentiment I didn't like. All right. Oh, you had to make it Monday tonight, huh? Yeah. Okay. Cool. My team leader does Monday Maker, I think. Monday Maker tonight. So anyway, here's what we did, Fifi, just to give you a quick rundown. So I have a layer, and then got some designer series paper. So the width is basically a 1/4 inch shorter than the height. All right. So on this one, we went, I guess it doesn't really matter how I had it. Maybe I did have it this way. I had it this way. But if you flip this over and then go clockwise, you get that little fancy, like a paper piecing or a shuffle kind of card. All right. And I decided to leave just a channel between my 2 layers. So I struggled with it a little bit. If you go back and watch the replay, you can chuckle over my struggle. It was real. I started out with my layer more rectangular, and it needs to be closer to a square to work, because when you have this, whatever this is called on a triangle, the longest edge, when you flip this and rotate it, it can't be longer than that length of your layer. So that's that. All right, so 2 samples. I think I need something in here, so maybe I'll do some more flowers on there, and that'll fill up that blank spot. I think that might be a good thing. I'll put another stem in here, I'll tuck it, and I'll put another couple of flowers, and it'll be good. All right, so that's it for tonight. I've been on here for over half an hour, so I apologize it took so long. Enjoy the rest of your night. Watch for that sweet, sweet deal. And remember, order your big sweet first, then order your second sweet or sweet products, whatever is the more important, more expensive item, so that the 50% is not calculated on like a ribbon or embellishment if it's part of a suite. So if it's part of a suite or a bundle, it's going to go for the sale price. So watch out for that. Experiment when you're entering your shopping cart so that you don't miss out on a good deal. All right. That's all I've got for tonight. Fifi, enjoy the rest of your night. Until next time, happy crafting.